Hello everyone, this is Professor Reimer. This video is for my world history students for Tuesday, October 6th and Wednesday, October 7th. It's entitled Classical Rome. Our objective is to explain the major effects of the development of the classical civilization of Rome by responding to a prompt. So before we get into this lesson, let's warm up our brains with a preview. It's related to the preview from last time, but now I want you to tell me, would you have rather have wanted to live in classical Persia or classical Greece? So either or, whichever one you choose, I want you to explain using some information from your GetSig charts. Pause the video, and I'll see you in the chat. All right, I hope we had a great lively discussion on which classical civilization we would have wanted to live. Before we get into classical Rome, let me do a reteach of classical Greece. Remember, in this unit, we were working on reading the textbook to gather information that we need. The information that we need are those get sick themes. So I want to go to my slide here on governance in classical Greece. And before we get into what I wrote on the slide, let's find where I got it from. Chapter 4, lesson 3 through 4. Here it is. This is in lesson 3 on page 2. So why did I decide to take notes here? Well, a couple of reasons. In that very first sentence, I see a big bolded highlighted word, direct democracy. So as you work on skimming the text, try to catch a little bit of the first sentence. There are a lot of great clues in the first sentence. As we've been working on in our own writing, we want to put our main ideas in that very first sentence of a paragraph. Textbooks do the exact same thing. So as you're skimming, pay attention to those first sentences as well as the last sentence, because remember, we've talked about how body paragraphs are like a hamburger, right? You got the bun, the beginning, the bun, the end, and the meat in the middle. Okay, so in this first sentence, I see this big bold vocabulary, direct democracy, and then in this last sentence, I see this would prove to be the beginning of the development of democratic republican government. And as I was flipping through this, I was remembering our objective and our processing activity, which is to explain the major influences of classical Greece. It's telling me right here. This means this is a hugely important section I want to spend some time. So let's read it together. By creating a direct democracy, Pericles expanded the responsibilities and involvement of Athenian citizens in their government. In this system, every male citizen participated directly in government decision-making by attending the assembly, where they voted on all major issues. Now, when there's a big bolded highlighted word, you definitely want to get that in your notes. So if we go to my notes here, look, created direct democracy. I put it there, and then I put a little simple definition. People get involved in government decision-making. Where did I get that? Look how cool this is. If you just click on it, it takes you right to the content vocabulary. A system of government in which the people participate directly in government decision making through mass meetings. Did I copy all of that? No. Did I put it in my own words and shorten it? Yes, that's what I want you to do when you are taking notes. Now, what else did I include? Laws for Athens made in assembly by all male citizens. How did I know that? Let's go to the next paragraph. In the mid-5th century BC, the assembly consisted of about 43,000 male citizens older than 18 years old. Every 10 days, the assembly met on a hillside east of the Acropolis. Not all attended, and the numbers present seldom reached 6,000. Now, is all of that itty-bitty details important for your notes on the governance in classical Greek? No. You're looking for most important information. And direct democracy is the big key vocabulary word. You're going to want information related to that, such as this next sentence. The assembly passed all laws, elected public officials, and made decisions concerning war and foreign policy. Anyone could speak, but usually only respected leaders did so. That's why I put here number 2, laws for Athens made in assembly by all male citizens. I took some information from various parts of those 2 paragraphs to put it into my notes. Where did the laws come from? They came from an assembly. Who was in the assembly? All male citizens. Let's continue. By making lower class male citizens eligible for public office and by paying office holders, Pericles made it possible for poor citizens to participate in civic affairs. All right, I thought that was important because it showed who all were these male citizens, included the poor. Poor citizens could participate. All right. Pericles believed that all Athenian citizens were equal before the law and that they should be proud of their democracy. Now, equality before the law reminds me of a practice in our own country where we have this principle that no one is above the law. So I put that here, why it's related to our objective and our processing activity. And then lastly, since it's the beginning of the development of democratic republican government, I'm like, I wanted to put that in my notes to remind myself, hey, this is super important. I'm probably going to want to put it in my processing sentence. All right, so that is a review of how to read with a purpose the textbook, and we were looking at chapter 4, lessons 3 through 4 on classical Greece. Now, let's move to classical Rome. What do we do before we do anything else? When you're given a reading task like chapter 7, lesson 1 and 3, notice it's not lesson 1 through 3, it's only lesson 1 and 3. So I want you to read 1, skip 2, then read 3. So let's skim that together, paying attention not only to the introductions, but also those beginning sentences. So here we go. It's chapter 7. So here I am in the chapter on the ancient Greeks. I need to go to chapter 7. Look at it. Look, chapter opener. Okay, story matters. Let's check it out. The myth of Rome's origin began with twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, vying for control of the land along the Tiber River. It ends with Romulus becoming patriarch of a new civilization. Historically, however, Roman civilization developed over a long time. It began as a monarchy, then became a republic, and then ultimately transformed into an empire ruled by an emperor. This empire grew as a result of its military prowess and was maintained by the common language of Latin, strong leaders, and a vast system of roads. At its height, the Roman Empire expanded into Europe, Asia, and Africa, spreading not only its political control, but its culture. Oh my gosh, so much good information there. Look down below. Much can be learned about Roman society from its art. This fresco, found in a home in Pompeii, was preserved beneath layers of volcanic ash after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. Based on the clothing and accessories in the fresco, it can be deduced that Roman women of the upper class were educated. You see here a woman holding a pen and a book. Oh my gosh, guys, we haven't even read like one page yet, and look how much we learned about classical Rome. So let's pause the video now. Let's head to the chat and let's write down what we've learned about classical Roman society and where it should go in our Get Sick chart. Pause the video now. All right. Hopefully we filled in a lot of information on our charts. Let's get back to skimming our textbook here. Here once again, place and time. Got a great video. I highly encourage you, go back and play it. It's going to have again some more a great context for our chapter on ancient Rome. Remember, I said lesson 1 and lesson 3. We're skipping lesson 2. Here we go. Lesson 1. It matters because, wait a minute. Yeah, you got to read the introduction. Roman history is the story of the Romans' conquest of the area around Rome, then of Italy, and finally of the entire Mediterranean world. The Romans were conquerors, but they also governed using republican forms that have passed down to modern, passed down to modern democratic societies. Look, it's cluing us in right here. Here's a major influence, these republican forms. So when we find them in the text, we want to write them down, make sure they're in our notes. Land and peoples of Italy, again, kind of background, context, peninsula, kind of important, but not really. It's not going to factor in too much into our Get Sick chart, except in the I, for interactions with the environment. Going through Indo-European peoples moving in, okay. We're gonna keep on skimming. Oh, Roman Republic, right? That was from before, right? Major influence. Republic, established a republic. If you don't know what it is, here it is: a form of government in which the leader is not a king, and certain citizens have the right to vote. Bing, bing, bing. This is this system of government, which we still have, is established for the first time in Rome. Definitely need to be in your notes. War and conquest. What did I say about wars and conquest in this class? Not super important. Roman section. Oh, successful strategies. This is not a military history class. Not that important. We'll look down here. Roman political structure. Devised a different system of government. That republican system of government. Here's where you're going to want to come back and get some key information in your notes. We're skimming the struggle of the orders, often conflict between the patricians and plebeians. This sounds like groups in the society, possible some social interactions and organization information here. Oh, Roman law, one of Rome's chief gifts to the Mediterranean world. Boy, whoa, chief gifts and to later generations. Well, we're gonna have to pause right here. Let's get this into our notes together. So here we go. Governance in classical Rome. All right, let's make some notes together. One of Rome's chief gifts to the Mediterranean world of its day and to later generations was its system of law. How do I want to put that? I don't want to copy that word for word, but I'm gonna say system of law. Very influential when to the med world of its time and later. So system of law, very influential. In my notes, sometimes I shorten very long words like Mediterranean. I come up with my own acronyms, my own abbreviations. Do the same. All right, what else does this paragraph tell us? Because we need to know like what kind of laws did it have? Rome's first code of laws was the 12 Tables, which was adopted in 450 BCE. BCE. This code established a concept of equality before the law for all citizens that continued even when the Romans developed a more sophisticated system of civil law later. This system applied only to Roman citizens, however. All right, so we got the name. First code called 12 Tables. And concept of equality before the law. There we go. I'm going to include that right here. Established equality before the law for all citizens. Bam. Wait a minute. Isn't that similar to what we were just reading about in ancient Greece? Yeah, it was. So we're seeing a continuation of building upon earlier traditions. All right, let's go back to skimming. Is there any more in that section? Okay, yeah. As Rome expanded, legal questions arose that involved both Romans and non-Romans, as well as citizens and non-citizens. The Romans found that although some of their rules of civil law could be used in these cases, special rules were often needed. These rules gave rise to a body of law known as the law of nations. Oh, okay. New kind of law. The Romans came to identify the law of nations with natural law or universal law based on reason. This enabled them to establish standards of justice that applied to all people. Okay, all right. Also made law of nations, which promoted justice based on reason and applicable to all. All right, running short on time, guys. I'm going to get to our processing activity. Same kind of processing activity, one sentence argument. I'll see you in the chat, and then I'll see you next time.